The Fisk Jubilee Singers were a college group founded in 1871 at the historical Black College, Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. The Fisk Jubilee Singers toured the country in order to raise funds for the school to help them complete their goal of educating freed slaves after the Civil War. The original members include Jenny Jackson, Benjamin Holmes, Maggie Porter, Thomas Ruddling, Ella Shepard, Isaac Dickerson, Minnie Tate, Greenie Evans, under the direction of George C. White. The Fisk Jubilee Singers greatly impressed Queen Victoria that she said they must come from the Music City, donning the nickname that would forever be associated with Nashville. They were important as they will be remembered as the people who introduced slave songs to the world. And because they broke racial barriers in the U.S. and entertained the royal family of Great Britain, they will forever be remembered.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex.
I'm Jeremy.
And welcome to another episode of Pianolin TV. Today, we have an exquisite guest because Alan here is a film director, our very first film director on this podcast. Hi, Alan.
Hello, Alex. How you doing? Hey, Jeremy.
Hello.
I'm doing great. How's it going for you?
It's going wonderful. I'm so happy to be here with both of you. Jeremy, I need you to pick up some pep. Hey.
Wow, this Alan here. You know, every time we talk, Alan, it's like you are very positive and very energetic. I just love that about you.
Oh, I try. You know, my mom probably would say otherwise, but
Alan here is a doctoral student at Morgan State University. He's an English and language arts educator, as well as a writer, director, and producer. And what's fascinating about Alan is he wasn't always in the film industry or even, doing English. He actually played classical music when he was younger, right, Alan?
Actually, yes. And I actually still do from time to time, Christmas and Easter and those types of periods or holidays rather.
Yeah, and the fun fact is he was classically trained. Yes. So when Alan and I talk to one another, we're able to relate on so many things, so many subjects, and even without the classical subjects, we're able to talk about other subjects too. And it's pretty cool that two different fields, well, not totally different fields, but music and film directing. There's a lot of hand-in-hand action that go together, but sometimes they're a little bit different. But putting those things together, we're able to relate on so many things. And I'm very happy to have you on this podcast. And the topic that you're presenting to us today is Black Americans' contribution to classical music and its healing power. And that is very, very true when classical music was brought over to the United States. And I'll hand over, the stage to you because there's probably so many things that both me and Jeremy and the rest of our listeners are be able to learn from what you're going to say.
Oh, wow. Okay, no pressure. Well, I would say that Black people, not even necessarily just Black Americans, but Black people, people of African descent, I would say were contributing to classical music in that diaspora as early as Handel and Mozart and many of those great composers that we adore. You even have there's even artifacts and things from the Renaissance period and the Baroque period of Black people contributing to this form of music, and also intertwining their own unique rhythm to that genre. I think what's interesting about Black Americans, though, is they have been able to take classical music and add that element of the soul, add that spiritual element that is just naturally associated with people of color, particularly Black people. And I think that's what's so unique. So when you have a Black artist and they play something from Puccini's Tosca, you almost feel like you want to go to church. You almost feel as if it's like, oh my goodness, because there's that element. And I think that's an interesting component. And I think that is one of the things, unique things that Black Americans contribute to classical music in both forms, in the vocal form as well as in the instrumental form. Even if you listen to a pianist or violinist, clarinetist, it's kind of what we call as millennial swag. It's like a little swag that's associated with it that you might not necessarily normally see. My father, Dr. Daryl Glenn Nettles, is an associate professor of voice at Tennessee State and has studied the Black voice. And that was his dissertation in college. And there is a Black voice. There's definitely a distinction there in opera. So I think what's exciting is now we have the opportunity to really, really have these candid discussions like we're having now and really presenting that information to the public, because I think those are some of the hidden jewels that are aligned with this beautiful art form that we love and we know is classical music.
I have to totally agree with you. I have a lot of Black American friends and also people of African descent because I go to school, international renowned school of music, Manhattan School of Music, so many people all over the country. And I'm very fortunate to meet so many people from different cultures, different ethnicities. And it's great to, get to know their culture, get to know their ethnicities, where they're coming from, how they were raised. Yeah. Because when I was there, I thought, wow, these people are just like me. It's true to an extent, right? We all study music together, but everyone has their own niche. Yeah. And when you were talking about like the Black people, when they sing or when they play, yeah, it's totally different. I mean, there are a lot of similarities because, okay, let's say we're playing a Beethoven sonata. Sure, but it's the something within our culture and ethnicity that when you play a certain type of music, you're able to have your own personality in it. And I see that with so many different cultures, Europeans coming here, Asians coming here, Black people from Africa. There's I see it from the Bahamas and Jamaica, people, from South America and from Africa, they are coming here. And I'm actually very happy because those are very underrepresented and they're like third world countries. And for them to be able to enter the classical world is a big bonus for the world, because that portion that was missing 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it's creeping up a little bit now. And what people, of different ethnicities, different cultures are able to contribute to classical music is a big thing.
Yeah, I think when you play, your even if it's not on purpose, what your background or your personality shows in the music. And so I feel that it's great to have different kind of people play the same music, because unconsciously there's something that shows in the how do you say, the presentation, or the way they express. And I think I saw a video of Ty Murray, the violinist, play, and there's this certain flavor that you can't get with any other player.
Wow, I
And I
love
think
that certain flavor.
Right.
I love the way you describe it.
Yes, it's spice.
Right.
It's we add spice. We add that spice,
Right.
you know. And I think it's the interpretation too. I think one of the interesting things that I found with Black Americans in anything that they do, from music or from any art form, art is so healing, right? And I think you get the element of soul, you get that flavor, you get that element because of the history behind this country. So if you take a Jewish composer who escaped Nazi Germany during WW2, and you listen to some of their music, there's a certain feeling and certain emotions that are connected with it, not just because of the artist, but because of, we know that artist's journey. And I think what's interesting about Black Americans is, unfortunately, I know a lot of people don't like to hear it, but Black Americans were in their own form of a Holocaust through American chattel slavery. So those spirituals that you get and those emotions and those feelings come from that place. It's almost like they're descendants of our days when our ancestors were slaves. And I think what's interesting is that's what's carried on. And then when you look at the trajectory of what Black Americans have experienced in this country, I think a lot of emotion and feeling really goes into their art, regardless of what it is, because it like was just said, it's symbolic of themselves and symbolic of who they are. There are definitely things, and I think that's associated with people across the board. I don't think it's just a Black American thing. I think it's just people. I think every group of people has something that deeply moves them and deeply connects with them. I know for me, recently, I think I shared it with you all, was you had these African American opera singers who came together and they did Roland Carter's rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing. And every single time me or any of my classical friends, we sit and we watch it, we just cry. And it's not because we haven't, Lift Every Voice and Sing is a wonderful song, and it's something that is celebrated in our community. But it's so powerful because you see nothing but this Blackness, and it's classical music and these voices and the power and the soul and the emotional depth is so it just moves you. It's almost as if you're just right there in the seats in that orchestra or symphony hall listening to it live. And I don't think that's something that I think everyone is able to accomplish. I think it's unique in a sense, I would say.
Yeah, that's wonderful what you're saying, because certain things need to reach other people in a certain manner, right? There's
Right.
I'm not gonna say like certain church or something, but when people are going to church, for example, they're used to hearing the same music, right? And in today's generation, it's nice to just hint a little bit this and that into the church music. Like church music is very broad. It shouldn't be just certain one style of music. Now, this is my own opinion, and people are more than welcome to disagree with me. But music is universal. It should be for everyone, right? It shouldn't be restricted to just one type of music, and then just because you are accustomed to that type of music, you only listen to that. And then if something else comes by, you don't like it. One, is it really you don't like it, or is it you don't understand it? A lot of people tell me, I don't like this music. I say, why? They say, doesn't sound good, or they can't relate to it. Okay, first of all, right? Classical music, when we were talking, I talked to Jeremy about this too. Why do people stay away from classical music? Why do certain people stay away from classical music? They can't relate to it. And in our 4th episode, when we had Ego on here, he was asking, what does Beethoven mean? What does Bach mean to you? And if classical music cannot be related to a person, that person isn't going to appreciate it. They don't understand it. And if they don't understand it, how can they relate to it? So it's like bringing this education to people, the classical music education. And that's the reason why Jeremy and I created this podcast, to bring different artists on here. Not only, they don't need to be professional musicians, right? You're not a professional musician, but you were classically trained, and you have a vision as a film director to lead our generation to be able to be exposed to other things that they're not usually exposed to in their education. And I think that's great. It's the same thing for music. And I believe that we are the leaders in our field, for especially the young generation, to learn what they did not learn in their schools.
And I would even add that I think with classical music, I think the other issue is exposure. With anything, you have to be exposed, and I think a lot of young individuals have not really been exposed to it, or the connotation that's been associated with is either the old dead guy on the Quaker Oats box, or that's, I've heard this a lot. That's their kind of music, or that's not, that's white people music. That's not, I can't listen to that. And so they don't realize that, no, it's universal. It's no particular person's style of music. It's for everyone. But I think really understanding, because even when it comes to spirituals, African-American spirituals, which were originally called Negro spirituals, is associated with the classical music genre. And what a lot of people don't realize is those were actually messages. Those were originally messages that, people like Harriet Tubman used to connect with the slaves on the Underground Railroad. So when you're hearing Go Down Moses, it isn't just, a fun, piece that someone is singing. There's history behind it. There's meaning behind it. And I think the issue is we haven't been educated. The issue is so many people don't know that. So it's our jobs to share this knowledge. I applaud you two brothers for having this platform where young people can come and see and learn and take it in. I mean, my class of students, I've exposed them to all different types of music this year. The thing about me is being in a virtual space as a teacher, I had to try to find some way to set the atmosphere of my classroom. And I do that through music. And every day it's something different. I may be playing, like today it was big band, WW2, jazz. Tomorrow it may be opera. The next day it may be classical piano. The next day it may be, the girl groups of the 60s. The next day it may be rock. It just kind of depends on what mood I'm in and what I'm being led to kind of play. And what's so great is my students have now have adapted to it. And now they're asking me for my playlist and wanting to know who is this and who is this by, and they're connecting with it. So to me, it's just that exposure, the exposure is what's powerful.
I feel maybe also it's because classical music, it's not only hard to understand, but it's hard to be able to get to a level where you actually sound good.
Mm.
So I feel that it's kind of that's why it's kind of only popular in the people who are in the field, I feel, because it takes a long time to get to that point where it sounds good, and then you are finally able to understand it. But I feel even people who are not as exposed to it, if they listen to a lot of it and then different types of it, they begin to see the appeal
Mm.
of
Mm.
Right,
of
that's
it.
the exposure that Alan
Yeah.
is talking about. That the young kids need it, and we are the leaders of the future.
We
We
are.
really are, and
No pressure.
and if we fail, I mean that's on us. I mean not entirely, but if we did try our best, and I'm pretty sure you do, Al, and Jeremy, you do the same. If you really try your best and people still don't listen, then that's on them. Then that's not our fault. But if we tried and they start to listen, they start to itch into other territories of uncertainty, and they really are open to listening to classical music or any type of other music that they're not familiar with. That's a big step for them, and then that gives you leverage to continue to do what you're doing. Alan, since this is also the topic involves healing power,
Mm.
what does that mean?
Exactly what it says. Healing. For me, the one thing that I have recognized is the power that classical music has to de-escalate emotions. And not de-escalate emotions in a sense of getting rid, but as an educator, you have to find ways to sometimes de-escalate situations. And I will never forget, this was years ago. I was working at a summer camp and I had two young boys who were fighting, literally like boxing each other. And I separated them and whatnot. And the one young man, I just couldn't get him to calm down. I had told him to go run around the block. I told him to, go do that. I said to go to the bathroom. He went to the bathroom, came back. He was just so angry. And I said, oh, I don't know what to do to calm this kid down. What am I going to do? Lord Jesus. Okay. And I said, okay, well, here's my phone. Play with my phone. So he was playing with my phone. And I had been listening to Marilyn Horne's Mon Cœur souffra tout va, which is from Saison Delilah, and popular mezzo soprano aria, one of my favorites, probably my favorite. And he just started playing it. And as soon as he heard that string intro, I literally saw this young man literally start to calm down. And he just kind of caressed and cradled my phone and listened to the piece. And by the end of the piece, he was just a completely different person. And I thought, wow, that's all I had to do. So I started doing that more and more. And I recognized how powerful that could be. And my mom, who was a clinical therapist and psychologist, had shared with me that, even when I was a child, she often would use Mozart to soothe me to bed because I would struggle with sleep sometimes. And she would put on Mozart's music and I would fall right to sleep. Didn't realize that's why I love Mozart so much. And just recognizing that power. And I use those tactics even today. Now, granted, do I think it works for everyone? Of course not. But I did another study when I was in undergrad, and I took a bunch of college students and I told them, I said, okay, so we're going to listen to some opera today. But I don't want you to think of it as opera. I don't want you to pay attention to it being in another language. And I don't want you to pay attention to any of that. I just want you to close your eyes. I want you to sit here. I'm going to turn off the lights. And I just want you to feel the music. And when I did that, man, so many of them had so many different emotions and feelings and things that they had to say. And it was great because I played two songs. They were both arias, but one, it was a violin version and it was nothing but violin playing it. And then the second version, of course, was the tenor that was singing. And oh my God, it was incredible because you had a bunch of young people, a bunch of college students who literally had said in a survey previous, I don't listen to this kind of music. I'm not interested in it, and are leaving out wanting to know more. And just the level, the soothing level of calm that was in the room that day was so just inspiring. And there's research out there. There is research out there that proves that point. I don't have all the research for you today, but it's out there. And I truly believe it's powerful. I think musical is a healing source or remedy in general. But I think what's great about classical music is I think the reason why people struggle with classical music is not even just that it's hard to get into because it's so difficult. I think it's difficult because it is difficult. And so that means that when something is super difficult and then you have to then reflect on it, then you reflect on what makes your life difficult and you reflect on what's going on with you. It's never fun and easy to look at ourselves. And I sometimes wonder if that is what makes it so challenging for some is I believe classical music makes you feel, regardless of what you're feeling. It could be good, bad, and different. I don't know. But I think it makes you feel. I think with other music, let's be honest, you can kind of cloud out thoughts. You can cloud out. You're listening to Rachmaninoff. You're sitting there and you're listening to this pianist just kill the keys. You're literally sitting there thinking. You're sitting there interpreting what he or she is saying. And when you have to sit and think, well, what do you naturally have to sit and think? You're in your mind, you're in yourself. So I'm thinking about me. I'm thinking about what's going on in my life. So that's never always fun for some people. So I think that's kind of where that line, where that aligns, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. And Jeremy, please be able to add in to what I'm saying. But I believe you're right, Alan. Classical music is very hard to listen to. You really need this type of inner focus that you can't get with other music, especially, I guess, in my opinion. Like for jazz example, it's a great music genre, and I can listen to it. But there's a how should I say, it kind of like an idea that jazz is like a chill music, right? To a certain extent it is, but you still need to really kind of focus on it to be able to enjoy it. But for classical music, you ever wonder why people dress up to go to concerts, and why it's so quiet during the performances, except for like sneezes and coughs that are unavoidable? But why do people just sit there and it's really quiet? Because you really need to focus. You need to focus on what is playing, and then also how that makes you feel, right? I feel like in today's world, and even in the past, people are so busy. Pre-pandemic, people are so busy traveling, things in their mind that, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, oh no, I gotta do this, and their mind is always occupied. And when your mind is always occupied and you just leave music as the background to motivate you, you're only listening probably maximum halfway or 1/4 of the music. But if you're doing that for classical music, the majority of it, if you're playing Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2, or you're playing a Tchaikovsky overture. You can't really like do your work and try to listen to it. It's kind of will distract you. And I know there's some people that actually listen to classical music as relaxation when they're doing their work.
I do.
There's certain types. There are certain types of music that is easier to listen to. But a majority of the music is not actually meant for you doing your work and listening to it. There are exceptions, but for people who are doing concerts or on the radio, right? I would probably suggest take some time for our listeners here. If you have some spare time, just close yourself and close your eyes, relax, and just let your mind wander and listen to a piece of music, a piece of classical music, really, and just try to forget everything that's around you.
Yeah.
And then let the music move you. I think that's one thing that people need, a type of relaxation, a type of isolation. Because if you're active all the time, right, in your thinking and in your life, you're gonna kind of get run down eventually. You need time to improve and just really just let yourself go for some time.
I think that's why they have the music therapy. And I don't know much about it, but I think they have a lot of performers, classical performers, come to hospital and those like nursing home, and they say it really helps the patients there. And I think that I don't know, maybe you can't really see it, but there's something that really has that healing power, like Alan said.
And it's interesting, Jeremy, like as I kind of wrap myself up, it's like music therapy. I've used music therapy and didn't know I was using music therapy. And I use it in every genre. I mean, it doesn't even have to be classical music. It could be gospel. It could be pop. It just depends on what mood. With me, I'm a Gemini, so it just depends on what mood I'm in. But I use it, and I think what's interesting is my mom's story. She is an opera singer. She is a classically trained pianist. She is a professional. She has been in the industry in upstate of New York for many, many years. And when she was very, very sick with multiple sclerosis, which can affect, all different it's the neurological disorder. Listen, y'all, I am not a science person. Just putting it out there to the viewers. But the doctors were so surprised because it generally will affect your hands. Well, my mom had to, wheel herself to the piano, and she couldn't walk, but she was in a wheelchair. The only thing that she could do was play. And the doctors were like, "This is impossible. How are you playing?" And she's like, "I don't know, just playing." And that's what she did to heal herself. She would play. So she would go into they had like I wouldn't call it like a multi-purpose room, and she would just sit at the piano and play. Now she's in a wheelchair. She has been just diagnosed with this debilitating disease. She has 2 young children at the time, very, very young, like we're talking not even school aged. And she's sitting here playing Chopin by memory. And literally she had doctors and residents from all over come and study her because they just did not understand. It didn't make sense to them. And to this day, it doesn't. Thank God she's not in a wheelchair now. She's in a wonderful place. Her MS is in remission, very good place. But even now, it baffles her because the one thing that she's always been able to do is she's always been able to play the piano. And whenever I always know when she's stressed or she's got something on her mind or whatnot, because I hear that piano downstairs and I just hear that music and I'm like, okay. So I just wanted to share that because I thought, wow, like, and I know, and that's therapy, and you don't even know it. You know, it's like you never really think about it until you really sit down and you think, wow, so that's what that is.
Oh, Alan, it's such a wonderful, wonderful experience having you on this podcast, and for you to be able to share your experience as a story to our listeners here. I'm sure they gain a lot of insight, and especially your profession is not classical music, but you're able to enjoy it and still able to play it from time to time as a hobby. So for those who are listening and you haven't done anything with classical music yet or even listened to it, just give it a try. You never know what will happen, and just because it may sound difficult or there's so many things here, we've had guest artists on here explaining their situations in classical music, and it's an open ball. Just grab one of the balls, go for it. And to end it, I would also like to feature Alan, because he's a film director and he's coming out with a new film in the future. Can you just tell us just a little bit before we close?
Yes. Oh Lord. It is a holiday feature film it's called Through the Fire, and it is about an aging opera star and a middle-aged woman who gave up her career for her family. And it is such a powerful piece because we have world-renowned international opera diva, and actress Miss Denyce Graves attached to the role. And it is so universal because classical music is not something that the film industry gravitates to, or rather enjoys, or from the financial point, right? So it's so powerful because this is the first time in history, in American cinema history, where you have an opera singer crossing that boundary into the film world. And the film is going to be filled with classical music, as well as other things, but that is the true focus. And I am so excited because I have the honor of directing this project and working with an amazing group of producers. And I think it's going to be life-changing for so many people because we're going to be able to do so much on screen and really show the world the beauty of this art form, the beauty, So I'm excited. I'm very, very, very excited about that.
Wonderful. Yeah, we can't wait to hear about it and watch it.
Yes. Yes.
How can people find out more about you or about your productions?
So you can always follow me on Instagram, Alan Nettles, Invigorating Director 93. Also Moving4ward Productions, also on Instagram. I'm the only Alan Nettles, and I am the only Moving4ward Productions. I'm unique like that. So you will see my big, beautiful face when you put me in and, log me in. I am not much of a Facebook person, so I would definitely say follow me on Instagram because that's my own.
There you go. And this concludes the episode of Black Americans' Contribution to Classical Music and its Healing Power. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're enjoying our content, please like and subscribe. We have a lot more coming up. And we also have it on our podcast, Spotify, Apple, and Google. Feel free to follow and share with your family and friends. This has been a wonderful, wonderful journey with me and Jeremy, being able to help others share their stories and our life experiences. And thank you again, Alan, for being here with us today.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Jeremy. I hope I can come back. I love this. It was awesome.
Yes, thank you so much. Take care, and we'll see you next Tuesday, everyone. Weekly content every Tuesday. Take care.